The Goat House is back with an updated 2-round NFL mock draft. It is Predict the Pick, like usual here, and we'll have updates with winners and losers throughout the combine, and updated mock after it is all done. All kinds of content covering the NFL here. Let's get into the mock. First overall, the Tennessee Titans select Shedeur Sanders, the quarterback of Colorado, and I am now a firm believer predicting that Sanders will go in the top 2. Will not get by the Browns pick. Of course, somebody could trade up for him, but specifically these two teams, Titans and Browns, I really believe after watching him that these staffs will believe he is a great fit, a much better fit than maybe the more upside quarterback in Cam Ward. We'll explain more, but I want to make it clear this is Predict the Pick. If I had the first pick, I'm always been a big-time best player available guy. Just take the best player available. You don't want to pass on generational talent. Abdul, Carter, Travis Hunter, those are these guys. But for specifically the Titans, Brian Callahan, their head coach, how much of a say will he have? That really is big for this pick, because I believe Shedeur Sanders' game has Brian Callahan written all over him, and that's the type of quarterback Callahan is looking for. Accuracy, because you can't coach accuracy over, big playability, but some hero ball, turnover-worthy plays. Essentially, Will Levis, or a better version of Will Levis, Cam Ward, is, again, more talented than a guy like Levis, but has that turnover-worthy ability, not really ability, but where Sanders, the best thing Sanders has going for him, he is super accurate. You cannot coach that accuracy. His flaw is the processing speed. Holds the ball a little too long. He takes some very bad sacks. He'll run straight backwards, but coaches will be overly confident. We see it all the time in correcting that. I think Callahan, look at Joe Burrow. He took a lot of sacks at LSU, still takes sacks, but because he's so accurate, I'm not saying Sanders is going to be Burrow. Burrow is much better, obviously, but that's where Callahan coached Burrow. That's what he's going to be looking for. But they hired a new GM. Callahan maybe he's already on thin ice. He might not have much say. So if I believe that Callahan has some say, I think this will be the pick. If I get wind that he will not have really any say, or if they find the quarterback of the future somehow, I think the only crack at that is Darnold on like a 4-year deal. But even if they sign him to like a 2-year deal, they could be drafting this guy. But I am a firm believer that Sanders will land with these fits, either the Titans or the Browns. And there's talk about them trading back. Very well could happen. I would love that for them. But it kind of reminds me of the Patriots last year. Hey, we're open for business. We want to trade back. The Giants, the Vikings making calls. We're going to give you a load of shit. More than anyone's ever given up for the 3rd pick. They go, yeah, keep on talking to us. No, we're going to take Drake May. We're not going to pass on the quarterback. Because when teams need quarterbacks, they make sure to get some of the best guys in the class. They don't want other teams to have them. So that's what's going on here. Sanders has some work to do, but he is uber accurate. And I think a guy like Brian Callahan in the Tennessee Titans will fall in love with that. So that is my current prediction that I feel pretty good about. Second overall, the Cleveland Browns select Cam Ward, the quarterback of Miami, who maybe most teams actually might have it as quarterback 1, but specifically the Titans and the Browns, I feel it's all about fit, especially with this class, these quarterbacks. Teams aren't going to, if they're going to reach for quarterbacks, they're going to take the guy that's the best fit for them and that they feel is worthy of a first-round selection. But I think these teams will view Sanders as a better fit because of his accuracy, but because of the system. And you look at Stefanski, who did he learn under? Pat Shurmur, who was the offense coordinator of Colorado, but they were together in Minnesota. So that kind of, again, brings up, Sanders as more of a system, that offensive fit for them. But I do think these teams that are quarterback needy will make sure to grab the best quarterbacks in the class. They don't want other teams to have them while they need quarterbacks. So back-to-back quarterbacks here, 1 and 2. It's what I'm expecting. And that brings up an interesting situation for the New York Giants here, who definitely need a quarterback, but do they reach on a guy like Jaxson Dart, or do they just take best player available? And they do that by taking Abdul Carter, who is worthy of the first overall pick, the Penn State pass rusher. They do have Brian Burns. They do have Kayvon Thibodeau, but Thibodeau's been very underwhelming. He's kind of getting near that end of the contract, and they're all in on Brian Burns, so they kind of reset the clock. Wow, this is second year for Brian Burns, and now they add Abdul Carter to that. That's an elite pass rush duo for the future. They don't have to worry about Thibodeau, and Azeez Ojulari, who's a big-time rotation guy for them, is a free agent. So they go best player available here and really load that defensive front up. Dexter Lawrence with Burns and Abdul Carter, I mean, they can win a lot of football games from that alone. We saw what the Eagles did with their front. So, interesting scenario with the Giants not having a top-tier quarterback available for them to select. For the Patriots, select Will Campbell, the LSU left tackle. There's some talk about him playing guard and being a pretty good one. I like him at left tackle. I think the Patriots would like him there. Mike Vrabel, it's his type of guy. They need to get protection for Drake May. That is first. And I think they'll be focused on receiver. We'll see what happens, but I think they'll be focused on receiver and free agency. Maybe go after a guy like T. Higgins, and then they can focus at this position with the 4th overall pick. So that makes a lot of sense there. At 5, the Jacksonville Jaguars selecting Travis Hunter, the receiver/corner from Colorado, and he is actually listed as a corner working out with the corners at the combine. What's interesting, that is very interesting, but I wouldn't read too much into that. Watching this guy this year, watching Sanders play him, I'm just blown away by Travis Hunter as a receiver and a corner as well, but I think he has so much upside as a receiver. He has all the traits you're looking for. Everyone knows he's athletic. He's so good after the catch. He can make people miss. He's fast, but where he doesn't get enough credit is he'll go up and catch the ball. He has incredible hands, catching traffic. He knows where to go with the ball before he sees the lanes. He can, he catches the ball facing the quarterback. He knows exactly where to go afterward. That really stands out. Drawing some OBJ comparisons, I definitely could see that. But the Jags, Liam Cohen, add him to their offense. They could use him at corner as well if they wanted to, but I love him as a receiver, love him as a corner as well. Just a big-time elite prospect here for Jacksonville. Back-to-back receivers at 6, the Raiders select Tetairoa McMillan from Arizona, another top-tier receiver prospect. More of a contested catcher on the outside, but man, he's smooth at getting open. He could be a little quicker off the line, but once he gets going, he can separate. His footwork is fantastic. It's a rare type of big body prospect that can move. I think Pete Carroll and the Raiders would love him. They have him outside. They have options for the slot position, and they could add more there, but they're set with this outside receiver in McMillan. For Pete Carroll, it could remind him of DK Metcalf, but he's a little quicker with his feet, getting out of his breaks, getting out of his routes. So I think that's why he'll stand out as a top-tier first-round pick for the Vegas Raiders. In the Jets, tough decision here between Tyler Warren, the Penn State tight end, and Mason Graham, the star defensive tackle in Michigan. And they'll go Warren, just a big-time tight end that can really do more than just play the position of tight end. You can give him the ball in any way, and he goes to work. I think Aaron Glenn would love his style of play, his physical style of play, and they'll add him to their offense and then look for that quarterback of the future to pair with them. At 8, the Carolina Panthers select defensive tackle from Michigan, Mason Graham. And I think this is like the latest he goes. This is a realistic landing spot. I look at the Jags at 5. I look at the Jets at 7, which we mentioned that's a possibility, and the Panthers at 8, the top defensive tackle in the draft class. The movement skills are ridiculous, can help stop the run, can collapse the pocket, can get after the quarterback. Panthers do have Derek Brown coming back, but they need more help up there. Imagine throwing Graham in with Brown. I mean, this boosts the defense so much in terms of stopping the run and getting after the quarterback, but they were atrocious last year, one of the worst I've ever seen stopping the run, so that definitely helps that. Most of their needs are on defense. They could use an outside receiver as well. 9, Kellen Moore and the Saints select Missouri tackle Armand Membo, and he is a solid, nasty right tackle, but a lot of talk about him potentially moving to guard, and he would definitely, I could see it. He could be nasty, absolutely nasty there. I'm going to rank him as a tackle, but I totally could see a team that is already set at tackle taking him and putting him at guard. The Saints could use a tackle, but hopefully Ramczyk comes back healthy. They drafted Fuaga last year, so they might be set at tackle. They badly need guard, and I could totally see Kellen Moore liking him like a Mekhi Becton situation, but better, way more upside. Maybe better right away, plugging him at right guard, and then boom, just like that, the Saints' offensive line went from one of the worst to a pretty nasty one there, so I totally could see that fit, and I could totally see him playing right tackle or guard, specifically right guard. So that pick makes a lot of sense there at 9. 10, the Bears select a very intriguing prospect in tackle, Josh Simmons from Ohio State. And first off, I've noticed a lot, whenever I mock the Bears a left tackle, some Bears fans just are insisting they don't need a tackle, but there was a lot of complaints about it during the year. Braxton Jones, you can't really trust him. Does Ben Johnson like him in his scheme? And he's on an expiring deal, so one more year left. They need offense linemen everywhere, minus right tackle. I do love the upside of Darnell Wright. I liked him as a prospect. So they definitely will be looking for offense linemen. Could they add a Trey Smith in free agency than a tackle here? Or they could go Ashton Jeanty. I think they'd be more focused on the offensive line. But why Josh Simmons is a very intriguing prospect, I believe, and people are kind of mixed with the mock draft. Sometimes you see the mocks with him up here or big boards with him up here, and then some you see him down at the end of the first round. But I believe the league will like Simmons a lot more than people think right now. And the concerns are, yeah, he's coming off a knee injury, so yeah, the medicals have to check out for sure. The combine is coming up. And a reason that I think this is a little early for him, but again, it's a predict the pick, is he does get driven back by more of the physical edge rushers a bit. The pocket gets collapsed, so that's where I didn't love him. But I mean, the frame, the length is outstanding, but the foot quickness, how he gets out of his stance, off the ball, the quickness is elite. It's absolutely elite for that frame that he has, and teams are going to be dying to work with them. It's more about quickness than power these days. So as long as the medicals check out, teams don't want to be scared about the past knee injury here this year. I think teams are going to be drooling over this guy, but I'm personally a little scared because he does get driven back a bit. He does have that knee injury, but the quickness is ridiculous from Josh Simmons. But I think Ben Johnson, the Bears would like him at left tackle, pair him with Darnell Wright, and build the interior through free agency. But they could go with the guard like Tyler Booker here. They could go with another left tackle like Connerly. They could go Ashton Jeanty. They could go defense, whether it's defensive tackle, defensive end. So the Bears do have some needs that they could fill easily at this 10th pick. 11, the San Francisco 49ers go with a top-tier prospect, in my opinion, Jalen Walker, the pass rusher / linebacker from Georgia. He played a lot of off-ball, but man, he looks like a natural off the edge. Micah Parsons, like how he played off ball, but when he played off the edge looked even better. But Walker played a lot more reps than Parsons did at Penn State off the edge. But freaky dude, freaky athlete, has some unique moves, obviously, and that's with barely playing the position. But you could use him in unique situations, off ball, spying the quarterback. The range is ridiculous. But I think this is the better of the Georgia pass rushers. The Niners, I could totally see a fit in Robert Saleh's defense. Opposite of Nick Bosa. Typically in that scheme, you have a traditional defensive end, Nick Bosa, and then you kind of have a unique guy that can stand up, put his hand in the dirt, can drop in coverage, can rush the quarterback. Boom. That's where Walker makes a lot of sense. They could be after offensive line here. Let's see what they do in free agency, but I like this fit, and he's just too good to pass on if he's still there at 11. And there goes the other Georgia pass rusher in Mykel Williams to the Cowboys. There's another intriguing prospect that I think the league's going to be a little higher on than I personally am. I do think he's good, but the good that stands out, the length is freaky, absolutely freaky length. He's pretty powerful, even though he's a little bit thinner. Georgia used him off the edge, but they slid him inside at times, and he was pretty good on the inside. He stops the run. He can get after the quarterback. My issue, the first thing I look for with edge rushers is the get-off speed. That's my number one thing. It's not slow, but it's a little lacking. But he was playing injured this year, so how much of a part did that play? It kind of reminds me of a Tyree Wilson situation. Wilson was a little thicker of a body, but he came out of Texas Tech a couple years ago. The Raiders drafted him. He's been borderline a bust, even though he's been getting better. But I had the same takes for him. Like, I love him inside. He stops the run. I love the length, but the get-off is not there. I think Mykel Williams has faster get-off, so he's a little safer of a pick. But it could be that situation. But I do think the Cowboys will like him. They'll love his length. They'll love his run-stopping ability off the edge. Matt Eberflus is the new defensive coordinator. I think it's a really solid fit, so I'd watch out for that, a player like that at 12 for Dallas. 13, the Miami Dolphins select offensive tackle from Oregon, Josh Connerly Jr. I strictly like him firmly at left tackle. Wouldn't move him to right. And the Dolphins they haven't made a decision with Armstead. He's still playing very well and healthy, but they need a left tackle for the future or possibly right now at the same time. I love Josh Connerly's tape. He's a top 3 tackle for me. Might be 2. It's between him and Membu still. I'm still finalizing that. But, man, he really improved as the year went on. He really stands out in outside zone schemes. I've seen so many reps where he has multiple successful blocks on the line of scrimmage, getting downfield. I love the foot quickness from him. I'm a big fan of his. This is probably his range. I know some people mock him a little lower. But I really believe this is his range, a legit tackle prospect for Miami here. 14, the Colts grab Michigan corner Will Johnson, who is a little bit rangy right now. He can go early in the first or he can go around this range, but you love the size, you love the instincts, you love the playmaking ability. There's some other good DBs in the draft, but the Colts need a corner pretty badly, and they would not. This is kind of a gift, even though they're looking at some of the tight ends, maybe his teammate Colston Loveland here, but they make sure to grab the best player available in Will Johnson at 14. 15, the Falcons select Jahdae Barron, corner from a bit of a hybrid corner from Texas, plays outside and inside, both at a very, very equally effective high level. His reaction skills are something. Sometimes he'll be flat-footed, like not even moving, and then the way he breaks on the ball, you usually always want to keep your feet moving. I've never seen a guy from... he does keep his feet moving at times, but sometimes at a standstill, the way he reacts, I mean, I've never seen that before. But he's very, very talented. The slot corner position, the value of it is higher than ever, but you got a guy that plays that very highly. of a level, and then outside as well. They have AJ Terrell on the outside. They have Jesse Bates at free safety. So get a kind of a Swiss Army knife in the secondary. I believe Jeff Ulbrich, the new defense coordinator of the Falcons, would love that. They could go edge here. I really like this fit of Barron at 15. 16, the Cardinals go Kenneth Grant, the Michigan nose tackle. Hearing a lot of buzz, around the league that he is going to go a lot earlier than where people have him, where people in the media are mocking him. So I'm thinking this is actually the latest he goes. He could go much earlier, and it does kind of make sense. It's a guy that the league would love. Like, huge, massive body, but man, he can move for how big he is. Kind of a Jordan Davis type player, maybe even better. He's a nose tackle that can instantly stop the run, but he has reps lining up over the guard, at D tackle, and he's good there as well. He has a lot of upside getting after the quarterback, so it's a guy that coaches are dying to get their hands on to work with, so I could totally see why the league is higher. So a lot of buzz about him actually being the second defensive tackle drafted after his teammate Mason Graham from Michigan. So really watch for that. It's a strong possibility. Cardinals definitely need some upgrade on the D-line, stopping the run. I think Jonathan Gannon would be very fascinated about the intriguing player like Grant here. And there goes another defensive tackle, Walter Nolan of Ole Miss, lit up the Senior Bowl. He's super explosive off the ball, and that really stands out. He's a little inconsistent. We'll have a really insane rep exploding off the ball, getting in the backfield, and then he'll kind of have an off rep where he'd get blocked, pulled out of the play, put to the ground. But a lot of upside there. Former top recruit, played very well for Ole Miss, instantly boosted their defense. The Bengals need defensive tackles. They been messing around with guys that are just a little bit above average, and you go get a guy that has kind of star potential here in Walter Nolan. 18, the Seattle Seahawks select edge rusher from Tennessee, James Pierce Jr. It seems like a Mike McDonald fit. They might move on from a pass rusher or two, defensive lineman or two, so they could definitely use an upgraded edge. It's a guy that could actually play off ball if you need him to, or you can have him drop in coverage off the edge spot if you need him to. And Mike McDonald with his simulated pressures, it makes a lot of sense as a fit. He'll typically like these longer athletic guys as well, and that's what Pierce is. Pierce is very different from your typical edge rusher. He kind of jukes in his pass rush, and sometimes tackles like, what is this guy doing? And that's how he wins. He doesn't really have typical pass rush moves. He's just really shifty in his approach. Sometimes I almost feel like he's better when he's off ball and kind of reading the quarterback. But yeah, so how's he going to be? Are tackles just not going to let him get away with this plan of rushing the quarterback? I could totally see that in the NFL. He's a little thinner, but man, he finds ways to get after the quarterback. He's versatile more than I thought after watching tape, and he's very athletic. So I think Mike McDonald and the Seahawks would like him at 18. 19, the Bucs go with a guard from Alabama, the top guard in the class, unless one of those tackles are being moved to guard. But Tyler Booker's a safe pick. He's going to be a very solid guard, specifically left guard is where I like him. Bredesen is a free agent for the Bucs, and maybe not really the answer anyway, so they kind of complete their offensive line here, adding Booker. But totally could see them going edge as well, but I do like the fit of Booker in that offense. Broncos select a star running back from Boise State, Ashton Jeanty, who I consistently mock around this range, and he for sure could go a lot earlier. But I think this is more of his range. The other star pass rushers and tackles dropping a little bit because the quarterback's going at the top. Teams taking a chance on more of the premium position. On top of that, teams are more and more, taking it more and more serious mileage when it comes to running back. And Jeanty he doesn't show signs of wear, but he does have a lot of mileage on him. So I think he could slip a little bit. I don't think Sean Payton, the Broncos, would pass on him, but some of the receivers could be tempting here, or a tight end like Loveland is definitely a possibility, but Jeanty 20 to the Broncos in this scenario. Steelers grab a receiver in Matthew Golden of Texas. I thought about either Matthew Golden or, the other receivers make sense as well, like Igbuka. But Derek Harmon, the Oregon defensive tackle, I think would be a pretty good fit for the Steelers as well, depending on what they do in free agency, because they're going to need one more defensive lineman most likely. But Golden is one of my favorite players in the whole draft. I think he should go a lot earlier in this. I think he's a very safe pick at the receiver position, fits today's style. He's a really good separator. He's so good off the line. He consistently gets open. He is a zone coverage beater, and zone coverage is taking over the NFL. We saw the Eagles run over 90% of zone in their snaps in the Super Bowl, but every year more and more zone is being run, and he disappears sometimes against man, but he really beats up zone. He's really good in the end zone too, in the red zone, getting open. Really strong hands, one of the best catch rates of all of the prospects. I think he's just getting started. I think it's a very safe pick. I'm a big fan of Matthew Golden, so pairing him with George Pickens I think would work out here in Pittsburgh. 22, the Chargers, and Harbaugh grabs his guy, Colston Loveland of Michigan, who potentially, I keep hearing that the league is very high on him. He can go a lot earlier. Look for that Colts pick. Well, Johnson was still sitting there, so he can go anywhere from here, but up pretty high as well. Very fluid, smooth mover at the tight end position. Knows how to get open and make big-time plays. Chargers definitely need a tight end. Harbaugh very familiar with Loveland. I think that pick makes a lot of sense here in this scenario. Packers go at edge rusher Shamar Stewart of Texas A&M. I think the league, I think the teams will be mixed opinion on him. I think he has potential to go a lot earlier in this because the get-off is super explosive for the weight, the strength that he has, how athletic he is for that power that he has. He consistently collapses pockets. He can stop the run. He's just not the best finisher in the world. He's missed, quarterbacks. He's missed even runners. So he could create for other teammates for sure. He can disrupt plays. He has to learn to finish better, but he could do that. He's still very young. The Packers would love him off the edge, pairing with Rashawn Gary. They draft Edgerrin Cooper from A&M last year, and he worked out very well for them, so I could see it as a fit. And what a scheme that changed to a 4-3 last year with Stewart most definitely could fit. So maybe around the range, like the latest he'll go, but very intriguing prospect because lack of production, but boy, there's a lot to like about a guy like Stewart. 24, the Vikings select Gray Zabel, a standout from the Senior Bowl of North Dakota State. I had this in my mock last time. It makes a ton of sense. The Vikings are looking for interior, whether it's guard, left guard, right guard, or center. Gray Zabel was a tackle, but everyone loves his upside in the interior. Some teams center, some teams guard. The Vikings are using their spot. But since he played at a pretty high level at left tackle, actually makes a lot of sense as well because Darisaw, as good as he is, he's had some injury concerns. So if Zabel starts in the interior, but then if Darisaw goes down, you can slide him out, put a backup in at guard, depending on what they want to do. I think it makes a lot of sense for several reasons here for Minnesota, who's looking for interior help. Texans, I've mocked this a bit. Mecca Egbuka, who's a very solid slot receiver, really strong after the catch as well. Could play a little bit outside if you need him to. Just a perfect fit with C.J. Stroud, former Buckeye, but just a perfect fit in that system. They have Nico Collins, who's an outside guy. Tank Dell, coming off an injury. When's he going to be back? They like him in the slot a bit, but 2 injuries in 2 years. You need another guy that can play, that can do a little bit of everything, could really dominate the slot, but also play outside. So Egbuka makes a lot of sense. A very safe pick here at 25. 26, the Rams select Kelvin Banks Jr., the Texas left tackle. Slips through a little bit. Hearing that's a possibility for multiple reasons, I guess. The other tackles really soaring up the boards, being a little bit safer for prospect. Banks had multiple injuries pop up at the end of the year, starting to show wear. He's not as quick or smooth of a mover as some of the other guys. Guys in kind of his range of the draft, Simmons and Connerly, they move way quicker, way faster, and that's kind of the wave of today for the NFL tackles. So too good to pass at this point, though. Will the Rams bring Alaric Jackson back? That's a question here, but yeah, again, too good to pass. I really thought about having the Chiefs trade up and grabbing Banks because they badly need a left tackle, so I would watch for something like that, but maybe the Rams would just, hey, we can't really pass on this guy here. Donovan Ezaraku, the Boston College pass rusher, goes 27 of the Ravens. This is a name to watch. A lot of league buzz around Ezaraku. A lot of teams love him around this range of the draft, saying this is a first-round player. And it's interesting. I feel a little more comfortable with him early day 2, but we're kind of getting in that range. So since he's supposed to be a first-round pick now, I'm looking for fits, and man, the Ravens stand out as a fit. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers do as well, so I'd watch for the Buccaneers. But I think preferably fits a 3-4. He's got a good build to him, though. Super long, knows how to use his length. He's really good rushing inside. Could rush outside a little bit better, but he showed some flashes of getting better at that. The Senior Bowl could stop the run a little bit better, but the way he finishes play, the way he closes in on the quarterback or the ball carrier is really stands out, really flashy. So I can see why teams like him. The Ravens, they got to get more of a consistent pass rusher. Ezaraku was pretty consistent with production as well. It just feels like a Ravens type pass rusher there. Get him in there. I think he would start day 1. Him and Oweh for the future. Oweh needs to be more consistent. Van Noy's been playing well for them, but not too much longer left, even though he's playing very well. But Ezaraku's a guy to watch based on the latest buzz and around this range of the draft. An interesting prospect. 28, the Lions select Mike Green, the Marshall pass rusher. This would be a Lions Brad Holmes pick. They get a steal down here at 28. Mike Green should go a lot earlier in this, in my opinion. He potentially could. He's pretty tough to mock because he has some really good tape. He has solid pass rush moves, different ways to get after the quarterback, and really good production. He played very well against Ohio State and Virginia Tech earlier in the year. It's really good competition. But he is very undersized, and teams take that serious. So we'll see how much impact that has on. And also, the last game that he played, I finally got around to that. He played against Louisiana, and that was not a good outing for him. His alignment was a little off, so I don't know if that was his doing or the coach's doing, but he got beat in that game. I think he did tally a sack, but it seemed different from the rest of his games. Like, again, he played very well against Ohio State and Virginia Tech, but then just this last game he played, it was a brutal one. So, and being a little undersized kind of showed in that game. So that's why he's a little tricky to mock, but man, he knows how to get after the quarterback, and the Lions would love to have him at 28. 29, the Commanders select Luther Burden, the Missouri slot receiver, and he's a guy that has potential to go earlier in this because how flashy he is. With better quarterback play is going to be even better. I think this could actually, surprisingly to some people, end up being more of his range because there's nothing wrong with being a slot receiver, but it feels like he is firmly, strictly a slot receiver, where some of these other guys like Golden, like a Travis Hunter, Egbuka, you can play them in both, and there's maybe a lot more to their game, even though Burden is so good after the catch, so flashy. The speed is very solid, and for even though he's maybe not really undersized in today's standard, but a little undersized, he can go up and catch the ball as well. The Commanders would love to have him for the slot position in that Cliff Kingsbury offense, so just too good, too much of a fit to pass at 29. 30, I believe I mocked this before as well. The Bills selecting Malachi Starks, the safety from Georgia, and I actually believe this is more of his range. Even though fans, media kind of have him as a top-tier prospect towards him. He could go a lot earlier, but very good prospect. The range, the playmaking ability, the ball skills, the speed, athleticism, they stand out big time. So there's a lot to like there. But I think he needs a specific scheme, maybe split safety scheme. He does let guys behind him a bit and kind of relies on his athleticism and his range, and that works out for him at times. But very good, interesting playmaker here, but this is more of his range to me. Good fit with the Bills. Safety was a big weak point for them this year. I could see them going corner here. The more I'm looking at the Bills, I think they have more needs than I originally thought. They could go corner, go edge, go D tackle, could go receiver. So, but filling that big need at safety, they could use two of them really. With Starks makes a lot of sense. 31, the Chiefs, they badly need offensive line help. I mean, looking at that Super Bowl game, really a left tackle as long as they want to move Tooney back into guard. And the value just really isn't there. I thought about Donovan Jaxson from Ohio State. Prefer of him at guard, but he can play tackle. A little early maybe for him. But Trey Amos is one of my favorites in the class. I think he needs a little. Some people give him first round love. I think he needs a little bit more. He played at Louisiana, then he played at Alabama, and then he played at Ole Miss. And he played insane level at all of those. He's a really good press corner. So everyone goes press corner, really sticky in coverage. He's a man guy. So people kind of label him as just a man guy. But man, he played a lot of press zone at Ole Miss. More than people he played a lot of man, but more than people kind of talk about. And he is good at it. His upside's at zone. I watch him kind of follow his guy to make it look like it's man coverage and leave his zone and then watch the quarterback get back. I mean, you can't coach those things. So I like Trey Amos a lot, better than people think. I know some people think he's a first-round player, but he definitely should be. Chiefs definitely could use another corner, pair with McDuffie. Amos makes a lot of sense there, which is a team that runs a lot of press here in Kansas City. And I do have a round two, but first at 32, the Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles, always getting the steals, somehow always getting these big-time defensive tackles. Grab Derek Harmon, who he's an interesting one. I think I've heard there's mixed opinions in the league. One super good year on Oregon. He had flashes of Michigan State the previous year. So that's why some teams kind of view him as a pass down defensive tackle, like 3 technique position alignment. I think he could be an every down guy. The way he shed blocks in the run game really stands out. But I do like to fit with the Steelers, but I had them grabbing Golden. Eagles wouldn't pass on him. There's a few defensive tackles I would watch for this spot, but Harmon the best one available, so they grab a steal there at 32. Here's my second round. The Browns have the first pick in round 2, 33rd overall, running back Omarion Hampton from North Carolina. If you've been following us for a bit, I've been a big Hampton guy for quite a while. Think he's worthy of a first-round pick. The Browns get him here at 33. The Giants take Jaxson Dart, so they get their quarterback. Remember in this scenario, 1 and 2, quarterbacks went, so the Giants didn't get their guy there. They grab Dart. Could they move up a little bit at the end of the first round to get the 5th-year option on their quarterback future? Dart's got the talent. It's really how does he adjust going from that Lane Kiffin system to the NFL? A little tricky. So might scare some teams, but very talented. Titans go with an Ole Miss player as well, Trey Harris at 35. To me, for everyone, it feels like there's a very obvious top 5 receiver group, and that is including Travis Hunter, McMillan, Golden, and then Egbuka, and then Burden. I think the next guy is quite obviously Trey Harris, my receiver 6. So Titans. So what Brian Callahan's trying to do is recreate the Bengals there, getting an accurate quarterback at Shedeur Sanders, and then Calvin Ridley trying to be that Jamar Chase. And then these guys aren't as good as the Bengals guys, but Trey Harris could be that T. Higgins. And then Joshua Farmer at 36 for the Jaguars. Joshua Farmer, I'm a big fan of his. I think he could be a late first-round pick. Built like a tank. I mean, super explosive, super long arms, disrupts plays. Didn't grade very well in terms of run defense, but if you watch, he was doubled quite a bit. I think there's a reason for that. Very disruptive player. Raiders grab Quinshon Judkins of Ohio State at 37. I believe he'll be the first running back out of Ohio State taken. Definitely could be wrong. Henderson more explosive. Henderson has some durability concerns. Judkins feels like more of an every down back to me. I think he has the longevity. I think he will have a better NFL career, so Chip Kelly gets his Ohio State Buckeyes running back. Jahad Campbell, middle linebacker of Alabama. Mike Vrabel gets his middle linebacker of the future there. The Bears grab a defensive tackle and Darius Alexander of Toledo at 39. Plug-and-play starter. Another guy that could sneak in the end of the first round. Very explosive off the ball. 40, Nick Scorton, who was once more talked about as a first-round pick, but I think it's because he's a little thicker. Maybe he's a little overweight, a little tight, but got a collection of pass rush moves, was very productive at Purdue a couple years ago. Saints grab him. Bears pick it again. Caleb Johnson, running back from Iowa. I think a very safe pick around this range. Pretty explosive. Can break some tackles. Sees the hole, hits the hole, has the home run ability, can catch the ball. It's just kind of a straight line runner, not going to downfield, not really going to cut inside, juke anyone out. So how much upside does he have if he doesn't do that? But very safe pick. Can be a very solid starting running back in the NFL. Azareye'h Thomas of Florida State, very solid man coverage corner. Could go in the first round. It's more of a zone league, though, but he really stands out as a man coverage corner. But so teams looking for those zone corners. So could go first, could go slip through the second. Jets grab him. Donovan Jaxson, Ohio State tackle/guard. He can play left guard for the Niners here at 43. Alfred Collins, another defensive tackle to watch. The Texas defensive tackle, already polished, stopping the run. Has some upside getting after the quarterback. The Cowboys definitely need some run-stopping help there. Another sneaky D tackle. Colts get their tight end, Elijah Arroyo of Miami, a very good route runner for a tight end. Very good pass-catching ability, contested catchability, lit up the Senior Bowl. Falcons take Kyle Kennard, South Carolina pass rusher, one of my favorites in the class. I love his explosive get-off. He's really good getting after the quarterback. Run defense could be a little bit of an issue. It's not a major issue, but he could be a little bit better there. The Falcons get their pass rusher. Marcus Bo from Purdue, played tackle for them, played it pretty well, but I like him at guard at the next level, so look for him to start at guard for the Cardinals in this scenario. South Carolina safety Nick Amanwari of, I already said South Carolina, longer safety for the Dolphins if they lose Holland, even though they are a little bit different style safeties. Benjamin Morrison, the Notre Dame corner, dealt with an injury this year, so he could slide a little bit. Goes to the Bengals, where Al Golden is his defensive coordinator, so can be a starter at corner for them. Tate Ratledge, the guard from Georgia. Seahawks badly need interior offense lineup. Josiah Stewart going to the Bucs. Michigan edge rusher, very undersized. He's only 6 feet tall. If he had a little more length, a little more height to him, he'd be a first-round pick all day, every day, because this dude has some explosive get off and he gets after the quarterback at a pretty high level, but we know how teams, coaches overrate size, so he is missing the length that you look for, especially going against those big 6'5", 6'6", 6'7", sometimes these days, offensive tackles. Jack Besh, who is my 7th best receiver in the class after Trey Harris. You have that obvious 5, and then you have Trey Harris, and you have Jack Besh, and you have Isaiah Bond. Jack Besh would be great for Sean Payton's offense. You can move him around a bit. Very safe pick, great hands, knows how to get open. Maxwell Harrison, a guy that can go a lot earlier in this, a really solid man coverage corner from Kentucky, going to Pittsburgh. Tyleik Williams, this is where you start to see the strength of the NFL draft this year. Tyleik Williams could go late first. He's a very solid run-stopping nose tackle. Chargers could use that. Siobhan Revel of East Carolina. If he wasn't injured this year, he could go a lot higher. He liked the length on him, the ball skills. He can let guys behind him a bit. I think this is more of his range. Shamar Turner, don't get confused. Shamar Stewart from Texas A&M, and edge rusher Shamar Turner, the defensive tackle from Texas A&M. Very explosive get off the ball for an interior player in the Bills. Looking for a guy like that to pair it at Oliver. Ursary from Minnesota, the tackle, going to the Texans. It's going to depend on Titus Howard. Do they put him back at tackle? Do they keep him at guard? Where do they like him better? So do they need more of it? They probably need both, the guard and the tackle, to be honest. But he's a guy that can sneak in late first. Isaiah Bond for the Panthers. Pair him with the young group, including an older guy in Adam Thielen, who's still balling out. Bond was way better earlier in the year than later in the year. I think he was kind of getting a little worn down a little bit, maybe long season for longest ever in college football, but he gets separation. He's not going to make contested catches really, but he gets a lot of consistent separation pretty fast. I thought he was very good for Alabama a year ago. I actually thought when I was scouting Jermaine Burton, I'm like, even though it was an uncommon take, I'm like, Bond was the better, as an NFL prospect, the better Alabama receiver. He goes to Texas, and he plays pretty well. Xavier Watts, I mean, he can go in the first round. I'm a big fan of Xavier Watts. He's a guy that finds the ball, and the ball finds him. He's a certified playmaker. The Ravens could pair him with Kyle Hamilton, who happens to be a Notre Dame safety. TJ Sanders, South Carolina defensive tackle, kind of like him in that three-technique spot. Is he a pass-down specialist? He could go late first, but I think his involvement more just in the passing game kind of makes him somewhat limited early in his career, but he's very good at it. Mason Taylor. I know the Commanders drafted Sinnott, who I like a bit, but Mason Taylor, very solid pass-catching tight end, lit up the Senior Bowl, going to be more productive in the NFL than in college. And then Princely McMillan of Ole Miss. This is more of the range for the two Ole Miss edge rushers, in my opinion. Maybe third round. They're a little stiff. They're a little slower of movers, but they're physical. They make plays. They have production. Bills definitely could use a defensive end that actually has production, so they grab him. Travion Henderson for the Chiefs. Yeah, he's a tricky one. He has past injuries, multiple of the same foot injury. His vision could be a little lacking downfield, but he's super explosive, can catch the ball. So where does he go? Probably around this range. Chiefs, they couldn't really trust their running backs. They didn't really have any explosive guys that are going to hit big plays for them. They weren't really that involved in the pass-catching game, so Henderson makes some sense here. Tricky for the Chiefs, man. You want to give them a left tackle, but where they pick in the draft, it's tough. That's the situation they were in last year. They're probably going to have to trade up. We mentioned the possibility of them trading up for a guy like Calvin Banks in the first round. And then JT Tuimoloau, Ohio State pass rusher for the Eagles. Very instinctive pass rusher, gets his hand on the ball as he sits back and reads the quarterback. Jack Sawyer, I think people are a little too high on. He's more of a third or even fourth round guy. He's very, very tight. Does have some production, though. Again, I'm kind of in the same boat with the Ohio State pass rushers as the Ole Miss pass rushers. Maybe people a little too high. I do like Tuimoloau, though. That'd be a pretty solid pick. A lot of good defensive tackles still left. Another Ole Miss guy, J.J. Pegues, I think could sneak in the second round. He's built plays like a nose tackle, but they used him in different alignments, and he's very impressive. So there's a lot of sneaky defensive tackles. Ainias Peebles, it's tough to figure out where he's going to go. He's such a good pass rusher, but he's severely undersized. Use him on pass rushing downs. Maybe a poor man's Kalijah Cansey. He's worked out pretty well for the Bucs, though. But do teams wait to take him Peebles because he's severely undersized? But he's such a good pass rusher. The defensive tackle class is pretty ridiculous. I mean, there's so many good players that have so much upside, and there's safe picks, and there's boom or bust guys, so it's pretty crazy. So love this updated mock we did based on my thoughts, but based on a lot of the league buzz as well. So let me know your guys' thoughts. I mean, there's always complaints. People think they know exactly what's going to happen when really no one does. It's the beauty of the draft. But we usually have a pretty good idea here on where players could go, where they fit. That's the big word with how teams draft these days or ever is big, good players, but big-time fits is what they're looking for. But that'll wrap this one up. We have a lot of free agency videos on the channel. Check those out. A lot more to come. Franchise tag window about to open. We're going to cover that as well very, very soon. Covering trades, covering the draft, full coverage of the combine, winners, losers every single day, and updated mock draft after. Really pumped about all of it. That's going to do it, though. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.